Good morning. The Chief Executive will first say a few words, and then he'll take questions. And as you ask questions, please limit yourself to 2 questions. First, the Chief Executive. Good morning. This is the first Executive Council meeting in the Year of the Rabbit. This is also the first time that I'm meeting with you. So here I would like to wish you all, happy, healthy Year of the Rabbit and a rewarding year. Now, in 2023, the target of this government is to lead Hong Kong out of the pandemic and return to normalcy. The isolation order was formally withdrawn yesterday on the 30th of January, so we're moving into a new phase of our anti-epidemic measures. We are moving into a new module, and we are gradually building up a new normal state. And the COVID-19 will be managed as an upper respiratory infection disease. And then the SAR government has 2 major objectives in the near future. First, we'll focus on developing the economy, and we will be promoting Hong Kong to overseas on all fronts. Secondly, we're going to plan for full normalcy, full return to normalcy. And we're going to regularize effective measures, and in the light of evolving circumstances, we will keep enhancing our response, and we'll keep reviewing the situation so we could respond to new threats and new changes. And second objective, our objective is, of course, to focus on economic development. And the reopening of the border is, of course, one of the most important and effective measures in promoting economic development. And as we move in tandem with the situation around the world, we will start again promoting Hong Kong. Since the 8th of January, we started the first phase of resumption of quarantine-free travel. All the boundary control points were working fine. We are able to have orderly resumption of travel. And from the 8th of January to the 30th of January, some 700,000 travelers crossed the border to the mainland, and some 600,000 persons came to Hong Kong. So we are in a new phase of return to normalcy. And various reports show that for the catering industry, the business turnover is going to exceed $10 billion. And during the Chinese New Year, the retail sector also saw a rebound. Everyone had a smile, and everyone was happy, and they enjoyed the Chinese New Year. Our aim is to resume quarantine travel fully with the mainland as soon as possible. During the past period, we've been in close liaison with the relevant authorities on the mainland. I am confident that soon we will have full resumption of quarantine-free travel across the boundary. And I hope to be able to announce good news soon. That would include removing the PCR test requirements, increasing or removing the quota arrangement, and so on. And also, we will also consider removing all travel restrictions for arrivals from overseas, such as the vaccination requirement or the rapid antigen test before arrival. Now, Hong Kong is moving quickly towards full normalcy. So the mainland and overseas, we are planning promotion activities for Hong Kong on all fronts. 2 days later, we're going to start a major relaunch ceremony, and we'll be announcing various activities to promote Hong Kong. There is a theme, Hello Hong Kong. Will be a major publicity event. The government will be leading various delegations to overseas countries and to the mainland to actively promote Hong Kong, covering business, commerce, tourism, cultural exchange, and so on. And this Saturday, on the 4th of February, I'll be leading a Hong Kong SAR delegation to visit Saudi Arabia and the United Emirates. And the Deputy Attorney General, the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development, Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury, and 30 delegates from the professional sectors, innovation sector, business sector, and financial services sector will also be traveling with me, and then they will be promoting investment and cultural exchange with Hong Kong. And so we will provide for business opportunities. The second objective of a full return to normalcy. Now, for effective measures, they will be regularized. And then we will have regard to the actual situation to keep enhancing our response to emergency so we could deal with new threats. In the process of planning for full return to normalcy, we will have to consider other measures in response to the pandemic. And also, we will take stock of the experience we've had so far, and then we will incorporate effective measures into our day-to-day work, making them regular measures. Some individuals believe that there is need for us to conduct an independent investigation into the various anti-epidemic measures. Some others disagree, and I disagree too, to that proposal. Now, in the past 3 years, around the world, we faced a new disease, a new virus. It caused the deaths of 6.7 million people to pass away. And then for the UK, the death rate is, compared to Hong Kong, is 1.8 times of our death rate. And then we immediately advise measures to combat the epidemic. There's never the best practice or best way to deal with such an issue. I agree we need to take stock of experience so we could deal with new threats in future in a more effective manner. In the past few months since we took office, we've been reviewing the various measures. We want to make sure that our government is able to respond to new threats and new changes. Since the assumption of office of this term of government, we've been reviewing various measures and enhancing these measures. First, we have set up a new command structure. The CE is leading a coordination task force, and also there is a special task force led by the Secretary for Health on combating the epidemic, and then different heads of Directors Bureau also lead different task forces to respond to the pandemic so that we could come up with some measures that are targeted and rapid and effective. And also we have alert response system so that we could take various measures as necessary. And also we have enhanced the safety efficiency. And then we have strengthened our healthcare system and also management of residential care homes. And then those were 4 measures. And the 5th measure is that we have various targeted measures to manage high-risk groups, in particular the old and the young. The 6th measure is that we have adopted a science-based measure to gradually remove social distancing measures and various other measures. And yesterday we removed the isolation arrangement. Since this government took office, we have been planning to connect with the world and also to plan for full resumption of quarantine-free travel with the mainland. So these are the outcomes of our effort to keep reviewing and enhancing our measures. The 7th measure is that we have interdepartmental coordination so that we are able to mobilize government manpower at the first instance. And there are also community care teams that we could mobilize as necessary. And the different government departments, including the Labour and Welfare Bureau and the Hospital Authority, will keep taking stock of experience as the pandemic evolves. And effective measures were included into the guidelines and they will become regular measures. They will also keep reviewing and updating the guidelines. So this would be the best and most effective approach in coping with the pandemic. And also, in planning for full return to normalcy, we have to consider various issues arising from the epidemic. For example, the future arrangement for community isolation and quarantine facilities. I have asked the Deputy Financial Secretary to coordinate this effort. They will assess possible changes to in the pandemic, and then he will analyze the needs of the community and so on. And so while we have sufficient emergency facilities, at the same time, we could make good use of some of the isolation facilities and the sites where these facilities are located. Now, during the pandemic, we have been working hard to respond to different circumstances. I and my team will focus on promoting the economic development of Hong Kong, and we will also plan for full return to normalcy. And we will keep enhancing our response in a pragmatic manner. Thank you.
Floor is now open to questions. Please limit yourself to 2 questions. Please first identify your press outlet and use our microphone. We will start with the journalist in white.
Kari, I'm from Bloomberg. I wanted to ask, Chinese tourists will be facing barriers to obtaining tourist visas to come to Hong Kong compared to Macau. What do you plan to do to tackle this challenge, given that the city needs mainland tourists to revive the city's economy? And when do you plan to make the announcement on mask removal? Secondly, what will you discuss on your trip to the Middle East, and to what extent might this reflect the government's efforts to diversify assets? And will you be seeking to court Middle Eastern companies to IPO in Hong Kong and or attract other assets to the city? Thank you.
You repeat your second question?
What will you discuss on your trip to the Middle East, and to what extent do you feel that this reflects the government's efforts to diversify investment assets? Will you be seeking to court Middle Eastern companies to IPO in Hong Kong and or attract other Middle Eastern assets to the city?
Well, first of all, since this government assumes office, we have been preparing various measures so as to open up Hong Kong and make decisions according to data and risks. I have explained earlier in my beginning speech about the various measures that we have put into. We have just yesterday removed the last restriction, which is the isolation order. There is no other restriction other than the mask. And we all know that, according to the advice of different medical experts, we have the winter surge, which is a period of high risk. We have to be able to ensure that we will be able to pass this winter surge. And when we successfully overcome this challenge, then there will be big room for consideration to see how and when we will remove the mask. And I think in the whole preparation for full resumption to normalcy, then the mask is obviously a thing that I will consider seriously of lifting. Then when we pass the winter surge, when this high-risk period is passed and we manage it, then I will look at the situation at that time and decide when will be the best time to lift it. But lifting the mask will be a measure that I seriously will consider. As regards my trip to the Middle East, then obviously this is one of the programs that I have said many times since the announcement of my policy address, that we will tell the good Hong Kong story. Now we have resumed normal. It is time for us to go out and tell people that Hong Kong is as normal as before the COVID-19. And the business opportunities and all the advantages of Hong Kong being an international city and also a special administrative region of our country has all sorts of attractions and advantages for people to grasp, so that they will not lose the opportunities to develop and realize the potentials in Hong Kong. I have formed a high-level delegation comprising over 30 very successful and very influential representatives in different sectors so that we can go and tell the good Hong Kong story, the opportunities here. Then, of course, the visit to the Middle East is also a reinforcement of the policy of President Xi Jinping in his visit to Saudi Arabia when he made his policy speech about how to capitalize on the initiative of One Belt, One Road so that we can help different countries to make use of good opportunities that we can offer, as well as we make use of the opportunity to develop our economy and further strengthen the different potentials and increase our competitiveness. I have a high hope that my visit will be received well by the governments and the local commercial sectors, and I look to some fruitful results as a result of the visit.
下一位提問。
Next question. On the left, the lady at the back. I'm from Singtao Daily. Just then you said that you disagree with the idea of setting up a commission of inquiry. Can you tell us why? Some export members are saying that it would be a waste of resources and we would be, if in effect, holding previous government officials to account. Can we set up a separate review panel instead? Recently, we have seen a peak of Hong Kong people from the mainland returning to Hong Kong, but there were long queues at the boundary control point. The officers stopped checking the PCR test results. So what's the obstacle? What's holding up our discussions with the mainland? Why can't you tell us a new plan yet? As I said, I disagree with the idea of setting up a COI. We have entered a new phase of COVID. We have two objectives for this phase. First, promoting economic development. Second, resumption of normalcy. We have to look forward. I agree that we have to learn the lessons to ensure we can respond to possible future challenges. Over the past 7 months, we have taken stock of our experience and we have been enhancing our measures. I've just discussed the detailed plans. These measures will help us meet future challenges. Handling any pandemic will require adapting to the circumstances. I can toss around 100 plans today, but then something new comes up tomorrow, and that will call for new plans. So we will have to work on the system in tackling pandemics. This will also involve a strategy, policy philosophies. We will need swift decision-making, effective implementation, and we have to be result-oriented. These principles are universally applicable. Whatever risk comes up in the future, we will need swift decisions, effective implementation that lead to results. First, in terms of systems, we have made changes to our systems. So we have set up this Command and Coordination Group, or CCG, and we have also enhanced our safety margins. For any probe we do, we have to target various factors. Enhancing safety margins matter because of this. Omicron is transmitted very quickly. No one saw this coming in terms of how quickly the variant spread. This was a global problem. So there's a need to look at the data and arrive at a decision. Enhancing our safety margins also mattered. So this would depend on the risk level. For some drugs, we may set aside the inventory of 30% above our usual level, but at other times we may have to bump it up by 50% or double the inventory levels. So these are what I mean by safety margins. Second, manpower. For large-scale operations, you need the manpower. That's why we have this government-wide mobilization plan in place. This is also mentioned in my policy address. To ensure we have the capacity to respond to challenges, we have to manage risks, enhance our safety margins, and also have an effective decision-making and execution mechanism. And we have to continuously monitor the situation to get a sense of how things are developing as quickly as possible and then arrive at a decision. We also have to regularize the tried and tested measures. So we will incorporate measures that worked into our guidelines, and we will continue to look at the situation and learn the lessons. The current term government takes stock of the experience, and this is also the kind of organizational culture I want to build up. This is the more effective way forward. I look at the results in whatever we do. What are we trying to achieve? We want to stay flexible and agile in meeting challenges. Next question. We're almost out of time, so we will take this question as the last question.
係邊位？
你好 Now TV 嘅，就想追問翻特首呢，就今日都未取消到核酸檢測嘅阻礙喺邊，即係喺內地定係香港方面嘅。第二就係政府取消咗呢個隔離令啦，但係留意到有私家醫生呢就拒絕幫新冠病人應診嘅。咁點睇呢個現象？政府會唔會出翻一啲指引呢？唔該晒。
多謝你呢個問題，因為剛才都有問係通關核酸檢測嘅一啲細節嘅。我講得好清楚嘅，我係希望係盡快全面同內地通關，咁亦都相信個時間係會快嘅。咁我希望早日向大家宣布。而所謂嘅全面同內地通關呢，係唔需要核酸檢測嘅。咁我哋但係呢，而家現有嘅喺我哋而家目前嘅機制，同埋大家係同意做嘅方法呢，係有核酸檢測呢個需要嘅。我哋亦都係同各方面傾緊，如果取消核酸檢測，我哋嘅部署同埋準備係點？亦都有幾多個部門咧係需要通知。我哋係喺呢方面大家好積極嘅。
Plan for a PCR test-free arrangement. But I'm sure we are all, acting in a positive manner. There is close liaison and discussion, and in principle, that is a shared wish. So we just need to work out the implementation details. As for apart from removing the PCR test requirement, we also want our practice to be aligned with that around the world. So there will be a free resumption of travel, including international travel. So Hong Kong will return to full normalcy. The only restriction still is the mask wearing requirement. But as I said, after the winter flu surge, we will seriously consider whether to remove the mask wearing requirement. And since we've only just removed the isolation order arrangement for a day, we've read reports that there is actually a transition period in terms of medical care arrangement. I'm sure the Health Bureau will monitor the developments in the community, and during this transition, there will be communication with the ref parties so everyone knows what is the right approach. And then we could also compress the transition as far as possible. We need to let the public know too what the arrangement is. So after the removal of the isolation order, the Health Bureau will be in active discussion, this communication with the relevant parties. Thank you. That's the end of the media session. Thank you.